Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Asian Military Review podcast with me, your host, Andrew Dravinga. I'm joined today by Kuldar Väärsi, Chief Executive Officer of Milrem Robotics. Milrem is perhaps best known for its multi-role unmanned ground vehicle THeMIS. Kuldar, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for inviting to this podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Can we start with a brief background of your company, Milrem, how it started and where it is today?
Yes, of course. Milrem actually started already a little bit more than 10 years ago. We started off from the repair and maintenance of the Estonian Defence Forces armored vehicles. So we basically the MRO company. But we very soon realized that the MRO service is very local and not scalable. And we started to look around and analyze what will happen in the military technology. Came to the conclusion that the ground robotics will start to evolve pretty much similar way as the drones or UAVs have been developing.
Right.
And now, 10 years later, we can say that, yes, we were right.
I think you very much are right, and you've done a lot to put THeMIS in particular into the public arena. I've been watching it for many years. And recently, you've become part of the Edge group, with Edge having a majority shareholding. What was the rationale for you to join Edge?
It doesn't come as a surprise that Milrem is still a relatively small company. Today we are around 250 people in different countries in Europe. In order to grow and in order to adapt to the market growth and to be ahead of the market growth, we need investments. So it's quite usual startup business in that sense.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of last year, we were raising another round of investments. One option on the table was as well Edge. And further analyzing the synergies what Edge and Milrem are creating, we all of a sudden understood that actually it would be very beneficial to have that type of a more strategic investor and more strategic type of a relationship, because that creates the benefits from the technology perspective, but business perspective as well, both to the Edge group and to the Milrem. So in essence, that is standard investment round from your perspective.
Right. And are there any specific companies within Edge that you have a synergy with, or are you planning that complementary role within Edge? Has that begun yet, or is that still too early?
No, it is work in progress, and Milrem is a system integrator, which means that we don't manufacture only platforms, but we provide full solution to the customer, including payloads, including autonomy, including integration to C2, integration to manned vehicles, integration with different domains, UAVs, USVs. So what is really exciting for Milrem is that within Edge Group, there are very many technologies, products which are very, very relevant for holistic or multi-domain robotic battlefield. And what is our interest is to how to combine these different products into the full solution. On the road of that, I would say that there are many companies with whom we already collaborate in Edge Group, like, of course, Adasi, Nimr, Outcon, etc.
Right.
But I would say that almost every company has some products which are fitting into the robotic and autonomous domain.
Right. Can I just ask a quick question about where you see unmanned ground vehicles at the moment in terms of how military forces are looking at them in terms of long-term use, what the trial basis is for each individual army? How are they trialing the concept, if you like?
I would say that if you look at the market perspective, then we will see very soon the exponential growth, because many countries who started already early on the experimentation, they have reached the moment where they now are preparing the larger scale procurements.
Right.
The many countries who even didn't think about the ground robotics 2 or 3 years back, they are initiating new experimentation programs.
Right.
So what has changed on the market over the last, I would even say 2-3 years, is that almost every army speaks about that, yes, ground robotics is important and ground robotics will become essential capability on the battlefield. Of course, from country to country, the CONOPS, the understanding of the doctrine and understanding of the exact use cases is very different. Some countries are very mature and they know exactly what they want to do. Some countries are still exploring and looking into it. And Milrem, as well as a company, we have special team of ex-military people from different countries who are exactly working on the robotics and autonomous strategy and as well concept development and experimentation. Basically, we can assist countries or armies to assess which capability they want to enhance with ground robotics.
Right. Has the war in Ukraine influenced your thinking in any way over these last sort of 18 months the war has been going on from what you had before? Is there anything that's influenced you from the fighting that we've seen?
Yes, of course, very much. So first of all, if you look at the practical perspective, we have quite a number of THeMIS in Ukraine right now. And obviously, this is lots of lessons learned from there and lots of product development, which will be beneficial for Ukraine in the next batches and which will be beneficial for all the other customers all around the world. I think that we are only UGV provider today on the market who has its systems in Ukraine operationally in use. But that's very practical view from Milrem's perspective. But if you look at the more wider view, then it defines for the next 10 to 15 years how we are approaching the capability developments.
Right.
Because it is visible with every bigger conflict as well, but even more so, real war in Ukraine will influence how and which capabilities countries will start to develop. And certainly what it has shown is, so to say, modern technologies and intelligent technologies have really big impact. And, we can name the UAVs, like loitering munition, for example, which before the war in Ukraine was quite experimental. Today, I think it will be in the main armament of every country. We can see now the unmanned ground vehicles getting more and more in use by Ukrainian troops as well. So I think that it will change quite a lot how countries think about the modern technologies and how they think about the capability development.
Can you say how many ground vehicles that there are in Ukraine and from you and how long they've been there?
I wouldn't like to say the exact number, but they have been there now more than half a year.
Right. Okay, we'll do with that. I know secrecy is something that has to be upheld. Just thinking about the future, how do you intend to extend a range of products, or will you have different sizes of THeMIS, or are you looking at actual different concepts as well?
Yes, of course. Today we have two platform size categories. One is THeMIS, which is for the dismounted troops, so it's small and slow, so to say. And another one is Type X, which is comparable with infantry fighting vehicles, so it can move up to 80 kilometers per hour and shoot from up to 50 millimeter turret. Right. But what we see as well is that we bring in the family of wheeled vehicles, and we are looking as well the smaller size classes. Smaller size class is not necessarily that we develop on our own, but through the partnerships. Because how we develop the company is exactly as I mentioned, we are the system integrator. So we understand very well the ground robotics domain. We are very strong in the autonomous navigation. Actually, as a side note, in the June there was autonomy trial in Estonia. Milrem team was one of the best. So 10 different companies were participating there and very challenging exercises. But yes, we are good at those things and we will focus on it. But at the same time, we see that for the, so to say, comprehensive capability which is needed by the customers, we are bringing in UAVs in the different drones for the ISR, for the loitering munition. We are integrating it with manned vehicles. So from the, let's say, APC or from 4x4, you can control several UGVs on the ground. And on the top of that, we are working with C2 elements and integration to the C2 that you can choose between the different assets on the battlefield. These assets are feeding the information to the troops on the battlefield as well.
Yeah, I can see that coming through more and more. And of course, within Edge Group, you have companies like NIMA who you'll be able to consult with and cross-offer technology between the two and others, of course.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Great. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground there, Kuldar. So I look forward to seeing you at DSEI in September. Many thanks for your time and for appearing on the Asian Military Review podcast.
No problem at all.